Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabalaba Girivardhari Gopi Janabalabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Sudana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janabalabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Calling out. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna. It's nice to see everyone here and my good friend Archita ji. It's wonderful to be traveling through just in time to visit with all of you. So what shall I speak on? Is there a Bhagavad Gita around? Of course there would be a Bhagavad Gita around. Of course. What a bad question. Yeah. So something from Bhagavad Gita. Maybe we'll speak today, I can think of a particular verse which gives us the formula for sweet relationships. Thank you. It's one of the Chatur Shloki of the Bhagavad Gita. So I think, we'll focus on it. I opened up right to it, so it must be. The Sanskrit is Matchitta Magata Prana Bodhayantas Parasparam Katyantas Cha Mam Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Purport. Pure devotees, whose characteristics are mentioned here, engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna. Their talks are solely on transcendental subjects. The symptoms of the pure devotees are described in this verse specifically. Devotees of the Supreme Lord are 24 hours daily engaged in glorifying the qualities and pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Their hearts and souls are constantly submerged in Krishna, and they take pleasure in discussing him with other devotees. The Srimad Bhagavatam is also full of such narrations about the relationship between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam is very dear to the devotees, as stated in the Bhagavatam itself. In this narration, there is nothing about material activities, economic development, sense gratification, or liberation. Even liberation. Srimad Bhagavatam is the only narration in which the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord and his devotees is fully described. The last sentence. Thus, the realized souls in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure in hearing such transcendental literatures, just as a young boy and girl take pleasure in association. So here is the formula for sweet, loving, close relationships. The Bhagavad Gita is an amazing work. And it is one of the 3 most read sacred books in the world. Aside from the Bible and the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita is one of the most read sacred texts in the world. But it doesn't sound like a sacred text when you first open it and read it. How does the Bible sound when you first open it up and read it? It gives you information about God, God's name, God's activities, the effects he has on all of reality. The Bible opens up with the book of Genesis, the book of creation. It's a beautiful writing. The New Testament, the 4 Gospels, open up with declarations of Jesus as the Son of God, and his arrival is as anticipated in the book of Isaiah in the Hebrew Bible. And again, the identity of divinity is right there up front. In the Holy Quran, same thing. The identity of Allah, most merciful, most compassionate, and all of what he grants, the blessings that he grants to humanity are presented right there. The Bhagavad Gita opens up, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yoyotsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. On the field of Dharma, on the field of Kuru, assembled together, coming together, desiring to fight, were my sons and the sons of my brother Pandu. How did they act? Where's God in this? It's surprising, especially to a Westerner. How is this a holy scripture? It doesn't sound at all like the New Testament or the Hebrew Bible, which front loads God, front loads divinity, immediately presents divinity. God, divinity's name, divinity's activities, and so on. But the Bhagavad Gita it opens up with the words of a blind king, a blind evil king by the name of Dhritarashtra, and asks, what are my armies and those of my brothers doing on the battlefield? But if we know how to read the Bhagavad Gita, we realize that the first verse front loads not divinity, but humanity, the condition of humanity, which is more universal than this or that particular name of God. Dharma kshetre, on the field of our true inner nature. Kurukshetra, on the field of our conditioned external nature. They come together in conflict. And this is the human condition, my friends. Our true inner, eternal, permanent nature in juxtaposition with our outer temporal, nature in this world, this worldly conditioned nature. So this is the genius of the Bhagavad Gita. It doesn't start with divinity. In fact, Krishna hardly says a thing to Arjuna as he's dumping the contents of his troubled heart out to Krishna as a charioteer. And here God is a charioteer. I mean, there's no charioteer. The most we hear about God in the Hebrew Bible is that he's walking around in paradise. But you don't hear much about him at all. But in the Bhagavad Gita, what is first attended to is the human condition. What are we to do while we're in this life? That is what we are confronted with in the Bhagavad Gita. How do we deal with this external nature in relation to our internal, real, eternal nature? How do we put those together? This is the rub. This is what everyone has to deal with. It doesn't matter what religion or what tradition or what culture. If we know how to read the Gita, we will read that it's first about the human condition. It's only in the 4th chapter that Krishna mentions his divinity. All the way into the 4th chapter. So the Bhagavad Gita deals with Arjuna as the model human who finds himself collapsing in his particular condition. He's having a breakdown. Arjuna is collapsing on the battlefield because he's confronted with this very difficult, irresolvable ethical dilemma. Should I fight or should I not fight? If I fight, I'm killing people I love. It's a civil war. It's a fratricidal war. If I don't fight, then innocent persons will have to live with evil in the kingdom. So if I do fight, I'm damned. If I don't fight, I'm damned. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to drop my bow. I'm going to enter into a state of despair and hopelessness. And that's not hard to do in this world. Have you noticed? This world is a pretty, as privileged as all of us are here, the rest of the world is really, really suffering a lot. And any sensitive person can't be truly, fully happy knowing that so many people are suffering in this world. As happy as we might be. So this is the Gita. What are we to do about a world filled with conflict, pain, and suffering? Kim Makuravata Sanjaya. How are we to act in a world that's filled with so much suffering? Any sensitive person will be confronted with this question and try to do something about it. Even in our little tiny ways, we'll try to do something about it. So Krishna's teaching takes the reader to the conclusion that there is a much bigger picture in which to view our little tiny painful pictures. That's one of the lessons the Gita takes us to. There's a much grander picture. The 11th chapter, where Krishna displays the Virata Rupa, the universal form. This is one way to view the nature of our condition and the world in which we live. It's a combination of beautiful and terrible things at the same time. I remember when I was in graduate school, I went to a park. I used to love going to this one park to study, get out of the house a little bit and study. And I saw a beautiful tree with a beautiful canopy, and I said, let me study under this tree. So I got closer and closer to this tree, and I saw on the trunk of the tree a sort of a black spot. I didn't know what it was. And I got closer and closer and closer, and I saw an army of one kind of bug, insect, invading another army of insects, eating them. I said, oh my gosh. So just under this beautiful tree, in this beautiful park, again, suffering. You just can't get away from it. So what are we to do about this? What are we to do in this life? with so much conflict, pain, and suffering in this world. So one answer from Krishna is that we are to find that dharma, that very thing for which we were called to do in this world, and to ultimately act out of love. To fill our own hearts so much that they brim over with love for others and care for others. That's the first thing. Krishna then teaches us, and he calls that the great secret in the 18th chapter. That's the great secret. The greater secret is realizing the true self, the nature of the true self and the nature of transcendence. To be able to be lifted out of this world, to be able to serve in this world. So that's the great secret and the greater secret. And then the greatest secret of all is where Krishna declares, Sarvagayatamam bhuya, shrinu me paramang bachaha, ishtosi me dhritam iti tato vikshami teyatam. The greatest secret of all great secrets. Hear from me once again, Krishna says. Hear from me my supreme message, me paramang bachaha. And what is that message? What is that ultimate message? Ishtosi me dhritam. You are so much loved by me. Krishna is sending that message that you are so much loved by me. The word love there is ishta, and there are many words in Sanskrit for love. This one word, ishta, means desired. You are so much desired by me because I love you. This is what Krishna is saying. And he's saying, I will wait an eternity for you to return that love. An eternity. I'm not threatening you with hell and damnation. I'm not threatening you with condemnation. I'm not threatening you to be punished. I'm not going to manipulate you. None of that. I will wait an eternity for you to turn to me. Oh, you like that? Yes, I think that is well worth applauding. It is one of the most beautiful things that you can find in any sacred text of the world, where reality is ultimately a loving place. It's ultimately a loving place. Despite our painful little pictures and the painful little pictures of others, the biggest picture is that reality is embracing us, and yoga is about the return embrace. I had a grandmother who lived in New York City, and as a 10-year-old boy, we would go and visit. My family would go visit my grandmother, and it was a terrifying scene, because when we finally got to the apartment door, she lived right on Fifth Avenue in a beautiful neighborhood, and we'd have to walk this long corridor and up this old-fashioned elevator that had this wind thing. It was all very scary to me. And then when she would fling open the door, she would look at me with arms outstretched, and the attack began. And she would come to me, and I would try to hide from her behind my mother's, skirt, and she would come at me, and she would squeeze me, and I would be looking at my mother and mouthing the words. I couldn't breathe. I could not breathe. I was attacked by a human version of a boa constrictor. But you know what? She loved me. She definitely loved me. And while this was a little tight, I couldn't return the embrace because she was, holding me so tightly. Well, the real question is, can we return the embrace of divinity who already embraces us from without, from within, and all around us? From without, Brahman. From within, Paramatman. All around us, the universal form, Virata Rupa, or Vishwa Rupa. already everything we do, even just lifting our arms or breathing, all of this is supported by divinity. Everything in our lives is possible by a grace. But Krishna himself is waiting to see if we can return that embrace. He doesn't embrace us like my grandmother did, okay? Although Mahaprabhu Gauranga says, even though you may embrace me a little roughly, I still know you to be my Lord of Lords, birth after birth. So it's about returning the embrace. This is why we come to a place like this. We see Radha and Krishna, Rukmini Dwarkadish. They're standing there close together. Krishna's playing the flute. Normally, there would be no reason for him to play the flute. His supreme beloved, Radha, is already there. But they both turn with an outward gaze, calling us to their hearts. And that's why we come here. We come here to hear their love call. They have already embraced us in so many ways, but now they want the very personal embrace returned, if we're ready. If we're not ready, then they will wait an eternity. So this is really an amazing opportunity. I'll just finish by, and then we can open up for any comments or questions. Matchitta Bhagata Prana. So one of the things that Krishna reveals to Arjuna is the way to have deep relationships. So Balaram Vasudeva and I were talking about this. What does it mean to have a deep relationship with another human? Krishna gives us the formula right here. First, Matchitta Madgata Prana. So first, we offer our hearts as deeply as we can to the divine. We first connect with the divine. We connect with what most deeply resides within us. Madgata Prana, our very life force, comes to divinity. Madgata Prana, Madgata Prana. These are beautiful phrases. Matchitta Madgata Prana. Then we come out from within and connect with another's heart. And we do what? Bodhayanta Parasparam. We cause one another to be enlightened. So I have a friend, and every time I speak with him, I won't mention his name, Partrikananda, because that would be, that would be sort of public, unnecessarily public. But every time we speak, he always talks to me about something that Prabhupada said, always reveals some very sweet Krishna conscious topic. And that's what Krishna conscious friendships are all about. Sharing what is most beloved to one. And then one becomes beloved by them. Bodhayanta Parasparam. Parasparam means back and forth, reciprocation. And then what happens? When that happens, what happens next? So that's the second phase. The third phase is Katyatascha Mam Nityam. Then this kind of kata doesn't stop. It's endless. It doesn't stop. In fact, it's hard to stop. And then the fourth stage is Tushyanticha Ramanticha. This is so satisfying and so enjoyable. So 4 things. First, we go deep within. We do the work inside of ourselves. And to the extent that we can do that is to the extent that we can connect outside of ourselves and that we can reciprocate. And to the extent that that works is to the extent that that kata will go on continuously. Just like, as Prabhupada states here, The realized souls in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure, nityam, right? Nityam, continual pleasure, tashanticha, ramanticha, in hearing such transcendental literature, just as a young boy and girl take pleasure in association. What a metaphor. Whenever I teach, I'm a professor, so I teach, hundreds of these young boys and young girls. And whenever I see them connecting so sweetly and loving together, I remember this verse. Because that is what we experience constantly. I don't know how long that sweet transaction will last between that young boy and young girl. That's none of my business. But all I know is that in Krishna Bhakti, that lasts for a lifetime and beyond. And that's what we're here for. We're here to cultivate that kind of, interaction and sweetness. We're here to worship the divinity outside of ourselves, Radha and Krishna. They're calling us. But the reason we have places like this is to find the altar within our own hearts, not just in the heart of the temple. We're here to find that altar in each other's hearts and to worship at the altar of others' hearts. That's what we're here to do. That is perfection. Each one of us is the pujari in our own temple. Now, we may not know that. We may be in absentia pujaris, but we're here to learn how to worship divinity within our own hearts by worshiping divinity at the very heart of the temple. And then we are here to learn how to worship divinity on the altar of each other's hearts. And this is perfection. So we have a lot to look forward to, more and more. Anyway, how are we doing, Thomas? Okay, let me stop here just for any comments or questions or anything to be explored further. Okay, we'll go here and then we'll go back there. Yeah. Expand on the meaning of going within. What does that mean? So, these days I'm busy translating the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. Prabhupada respected Patanjali as a great sage, but he didn't like the commentators that came after him that seemed to kind of destroy his message. But Patanjali speaks about Ishvara Pranidhana 4 times throughout his 196 aphoristic work. Ishvara, the divine source of all reality, is discovered by moving deeply into the space within the heart. There's a very, long translation of it, but that's what it means. Pranidhana, pra, moving, ni, deeply, dhana, into the space within the heart, a phrase that I've adopted from the Upanishads. The space within the heart. It's so much more interesting than the space in LA. Yeah, exactly. I was driving into LA for last night late from San Diego, and then this morning getting here to the temple. In LA, you all live here, so I want to be respectful, but it's not very interesting. No, I'm sorry, I don't mean any disrespect, okay? I'm sorry, but, I'm an American, okay? So, LA's cool. But the space within the heart, this is so much more interesting and beautiful because divinity resides there. And so much comes along with divinity. So what does it mean to go within? It means japa. It means the Maha Mantra. The Maha Mantra, I've written a book whose conclusion is that the Maha Mantra is but the sonic replication of the great circle dance of Krishna with the Vrajagopikas. So when we're chanting the Maha Mantra, whether we know it or not, we are in some sense, entering or associating or connecting ourselves with the great eternal circle dance of Krishna and the Vrajagopikas. The chanting of the Maha Mantra is the return embrace of yoga. Krishna is embracing us from without, from within, and all around us. How can we return the embrace? Because remember, Krishna is not like my grandmother. Okay, he's not squeezing us and suffocating us. He doesn't do that. But we can return the embrace by chanting the Maha Mantra. And that's what it means to go within. Oh, be patient. Even if you just hear the words, hear the sounds with nothing else around, just hear the sounds. That's the beginning of going within.
That's why ancient sages used to do
Solitary
solitary japa.
japa, yes, yes. And of course, but with the Maha Mantra, the reason it's called the Maha Mantra is because it can be chanted anywhere, anytime, in any place, whereas other mantras have limits. But the Maha Mantra is universal, but it's up to us to make it personal. And by the way, this Maha Mantra is in the form of a dance. I mean, you have Hare Krishna, and then you've got Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. You hear the rhythm, it's beautiful. Then Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then it's circuitous. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare. It just keeps going around and around. There's no other mantra that does this. And there are hundreds of mantras. And note another characteristic of this mantra. It's all in the vocative case in Sanskrit. It's all in the vocative case, which means, hey Krishna, hey Radha, hey Krishna, hey Rama. Krishna is divinity who attracts us. Rama is divinity who enjoys connecting with us. So that's the dance. And Hara is the goddess who brings us to the Lord. So this is very powerful. So that's how we go within, and that's how we return the embrace. Thank you for your question. Let's go back here, and then we'll go here. Yeah. Oh, okay. And you're the one who clapped, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, good.
How come most mantras start with Om and the Hare Krishna mantra just starts with Hare Krishna?
Yes, excellent question. So the Omkar, Pranava Omkar, is one of the most powerful bija mantras there is. It's spoken of in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It's there in several verses within the Bhagavad Gita. The Om is preparatory for, other mantras like Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, right? And so on. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Krishnaya Namaha, whatever. The Maha Mantra bypasses that. It already takes you where the Omkar wants to take you. So you are at the very highest. It's the fast track. You could take the stairs, that's Omkar. You could take the elevator, that's Maha Mantra. In the hotel where we once were staying in our visit out west here, the elevator was broken. I said, this is a lesser process. He's, traveling up the stairs, so laborious. The Maha Mantra, elevator, you're right there. But the tough part is to stick with it, to stay with it, and to go deeper and deeper and deeper with it. And this is why you need to, ideally, you connect with other advanced devotees who've already experienced this. And then you can be inspired to go further and further, to go deeper, right? Yeah, the Omkar, nothing wrong with we chant it here in various contexts, but the Maha Mantra is universal and it's already elevated to the very top of where all mantras want to go. So And then it has all these different characteristics. Like I said, it's got equal feminine and masculine names of divinity. It's a calling out. No other mantras have the vocative case. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That is a syntactical sentence, you could say, in Sanskrit. And the Om is invocative. And in fact, the Om consists of a, u, okay? And the a represents the outer world, the u, the inner world, and the the innermost world of the heart. So with the Maha Mantra, it immediately takes you to the heart. So there's no need for the Om in the Maha Mantra. Otherwise we would do that. Om Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But that's a redundancy. Yeah. Thank you for your question and your applause earlier. Yeah. Yeah.
So is Mamaka limited word or inclusive?
I'm sorry?
Is Mamaka limited word or inclusive?
Oh, you're thinking of the first verse of the
Mamaka
Bhagavad Gita,
Shaiva.
Mamaka Pandavaschaiva.
Yeah.
Okay. So the king, the blind king, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, in my introduction to the Bhagavad Gita that I translated, I suggest that aren't we all a little bit like blind kings in false kingdoms? You know? We think we're going to live forever. We don't see things as they are. And this is what Dhritarashtra in some sense symbolizes. We don't want to be little Dhritarashtras anymore. We want to be connected to someone like Sanjaya, to whom this verse was spoken, in the great narrator of the Gita. So Mamaka, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu, what were they doing on the battlefield? So Mamaka, yes, Mamaka, too much of the mama, and the I, me, mine consciousness. Krishna Bhakti is the process by which we transfer ourselves from being I doing, ahankara, the false ego, and we make it so we can be oriented to otherness rather than mineness. So yeah, the mamaka in some sense represents the conditioned life. But the otherness, anyakara, you could say, instead of ahankara, being centered, oriented around me and mine, and how the universe is centered on me. Now, in Krishna Bhakti, I'm seeing how I am to serve the other, how I'm to serve you, and serve other peoples in their hearts. So you could say that the anyakara is the antidote to the ahankara. And ultimately, we learn that by serving the supreme other, the paramanyakara, the supreme other, divinity. So Mamaka, yeah, Krishna Bhakti takes us from a place of selfishness to a place of selflessness. That's Krishna Bhakti. And that's the nature of love. Love is never focusing on oneself. One is always focusing on the beloved. Does that make sense? It's a little elaborate explanation of Mamaka, but yeah. Good. Yeah, we'll go here and then we'll go there. Yeah.
Very nice lecture, Prabhu. You've read at the end of Prabhupada's purport this metaphor. Does it at all hint, or would you say that it hints, in terms of Sambandha Gyan Tattva, as to the nature of our relationship, Purusha, Prakriti?
Not sure I've completely comprehended your question.
So
I know
the
you're onto
metaphor
something.
was,
I know
was
you're
a young
onto,
boy.
I can
Yes.
feel it. I can feel it, but I'm just not quite sure I
Well,
understand.
Prabhupada says just like the relationship between a young boy and a young girl.
Yeah.
So my question, does that hint at the nature of our relationship? as Prakriti in relationship to Purusha?
Oh, yes. Okay, so, Prabhupada speaks about how all love originates in the divine. And we all have dormant within us pure love. Everyone has pure love dormant within them, okay? The question is how to grow that, how to expand that. Now, that may be, coupled with worldly love, more selfish love. But just like oil and water, they never mix, but they might be together. So prema is always there lying dormant, at least dormant within the heart of everyone. So we already have that pure love for relationships. Majjita makata prana, that's about connecting with that dormant love first. And then we come outside of ourselves and connect with another person. So to the extent that we can go internally and connect with that pure love is to the extent that we can connect with others externally. So we all have that prema. We all have that prema, but we also can have that mixed worldly love, the kama. So Krishna bhakti is to purify our hearts. Prabhupada said, we are not a religion. He comes right out boldly. Prabhupada was often very bold in his statements. We are not a religion. We are a process of purifying the heart. It's universal. It's a universal process. So that's what we're about. Yeah. So the Purusha becomes pure as a Purusha. And even though in the realm of Prakriti, no problem. Such a Purusha will transform everything into objects of love and affection because it's part of Ishvara, from whom Purusha and Prakriti come. It's like walking into someone's house. Do you start ignoring the host? You say, oh, I like this little thing and I like that little thing. It's kind of rude to do that. Well, it's kind of like what the conditioned soul does. Connect all of the things in the home to the owners of the home. Like, you have a beautiful home. Not that, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful home. Let me take some of this stuff. Who does that? A thief. Okay, so we have to be careful not to be thieves while we're here in this world. We appreciate how the home is reflective of the owners, the hosts of the home. So we're here in Krishna's home. It's beautiful. That's why we have a place like this, to make it so obviously Krishna's home. Now, earlier I said that LA was not a particularly, wonderful place. Well, that's my mundane vision. Next time I come here, I hope I'll say, LA is beautiful. Oh, this place is exquisite. I don't know that I'll ever do that, though. But it is wonderful being here, that is for sure. So yeah, our vision becomes transformed, our hearts become full, and they spill over into others' hearts. That's perfection as Purusha, as a Purusha. Does that respond?
I was curious the nature of the living entity, the jiva's prem. Is it always the nature of Prakriti, feminine in nature in relationship to Purusha, who is only Krishna? Okay. See, you are conflating two different systems. Okay, there's the Sankhya system, which you were invoking at one point, but then you were invoking the theology. So we'll have to untangle that later together. Okay, but yeah, Purusha as Prakriti, then you see as Prakriti, you could say, we are always, dependent on Purusha, the Supreme Purusha. Yeah. But we're talking really a theology of love, a bhakti theology. This is the way I was responding. Yeah. Oh. Archie? Yes. You have some corrections.
Hare
you'd like
Krishna,
to make?
Garuda Prabhu. Thank you very much for accepting my late invitation to speak. We had already scheduled someone else to speak today, but he called me yesterday, said he was passing through LA. So I said, please, we don't see you very often. Please stop and speak.
Yeah, but you know what happened is Rigupati wrote to me this morning. He has some terrible, the person who was supposed to speak, he has some terrible laryngitis. So this is, better than,
Hare Krishna.
right, okay,
So just a note on that last question. The main point of that metaphor that Prabhupada made in that purport, a young boy and young girl, is that it's natural. You don't have to teach young boys and young girls to be attracted to each other. It's natural. So it's the same thing. The attraction between the Purusha and the Prakriti is natural. So when we don't feel that natural attraction, people walk by here, they'd rather go to a sports bar or some cinema. They don't want to stop and see Rukmini Dwarkadish. That's unnatural. And the Krishna conscious movement, as you said so often, over and over today, is to remove that unnaturalness by purification. Nice. So that natural attraction is there between Prakriti and Purusha. It's natural. Just as young boys and young girls are naturally attracted to each other, they don't have to be taught. It's there in the heart. Yeah. Similarly, the attraction from Prakriti to Purusha is natural, and if we're not feeling it as natural, something is wrong. And Prabhupada said, if you're practicing Krishna consciousness and you're feeling morose, it's something wrong with you. Do something about it.
Yeah, that. Yeah. Exactly. Thank you, Architaji. Good. So I think it's time for the feast, isn't it? 1:30, right? Is it? I thank you so much for today. All the best to you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.